Hello Leica fans, if you're like me, you probably enjoy the lenses you've already got, but you always kind of wonder, how good are the really expensive lenses? In today's video, I'm going to give you my first impressions of the most expensive current production Leica M-mount lens, which is the Leica Noctilux 75mm f1.25 M-mount lens. This lens costs an eye-watering $14,000, and I know what you're thinking, you're like, I can't afford that. And I'm like, I can't afford that either. So do not worry. Not only will I give you my first impressions of a potentially best ever made Leica M-mount lens, I'll also give you an alternative which costs 14 times less. The question is a lens that costs 14 times less 14 times worse? Let's find out. Hey guys, Matt here from MrLeica.com. So to just give you a bit of a backstory to how I came about trying a $14,000 lens. Yesterday I was teaching one of my Leica workshops in London and teaching model photography using Leica cameras. John flew over from the US and was working in Paris. He found that I was in London, so he got the Eurostar to London for the day to meet me for a workshop. John happened to bring his 75mm Noctilux lens, knowing that we'll be doing portraits. To cut the story shorter, John lent me the Noctilux lens for the day so I can make this video for you guys. The question is, what lens should we compare it to? Obvious choices could be the Leica Summicron Apo 75 f2, the lens I used to own, or perhaps the older Leica Summilux 75 1.4 spherical lens, amazing lens for portraits. Both those lenses are slightly more expensive than 14 times less, so the lens we're going to be looking at today is the current production Voigtlander Nokton 75 1.5 VM-mount lens. This is the lens I own and love, so I was interested to see how good the lens was compared to the Noctilux. Before we look at the photos, let's quickly look at the two lenses side by side on paper. The Voigtlander Nokton 75 1.5 is $1,000, whereas the Leica Noctilux 75 1.25 is $14,000. The Voigtlander has a close focus distance of 0.7 meters. The Leica has a close focus distance of 0.85 meters. Both lenses are manual focus rangefinder coupled Leica M-mount lenses, but the size and weight are quite different. The Voigtlander weighs 350 grams or 12 ounces. The Leica Noctilux weighs 1 kilo, which is around 33 ounces. The filter size of the Voigtlander is 58mm. The filter size of the Leica is 67mm. If any of you own the 50mm 0.95 Noctilux, it's kind of a similar-ish width with a built-in screw-out lens hood, but it's longer and heavier than the 50mm 0.95. The optical design, for any of you interested, the Voigtlander is 7 elements in 6 groups with 12 aperture blades. The Noctilux is 9 elements in 6 groups with 11 aperture blades. As with all Voigtlander lenses, no Voigtlander M-mount lenses are 6-bit coded, so you don't get the EXIF data. The Leica lens is 6-bit coded. Because of the size and the weight, the Leica Noctilux even comes with a tripod socket, similar to, say, the 90mm f2 pre-spherical. Let's now look at some sample pictures. So all these photos are shot in RAW on the Leica SL camera. We're shooting with Maria in London with available light only to start with. These are photos shot with the Noctilux, shot wide open at the maximum aperture at 1.25. It's worth mentioning, if you're using this lens on a Leica M-mount camera, apart from the M11, you should get a ND filter. 0.004 of a second is not fast enough to use lenses as fast as Noctilux is. Basically, you'd have to stop the lens down to get the correct brightness on a reasonably bright day. All photos, as I say, are RAW, and then I just added my Mr. Leica either black and white presets or colour presets. Then, being normal, typical English weather, the rain started coming down, so we headed for cover indoors to finish the rest of our shoot. To begin with, I was shooting with the table light and kind of available lights coming through the roof lights. But then I get a bit picky with my lighting, and I wanted better lighting than the lighting I was seeing kind of with the available light. So these photos are shot with continuous light, first with the Leica Noctilux, again wide open at 1.25, and then see if you can tell a difference. So now I'm going to switch to the Voigtlander. These photos are shot with the Voigtlander Nokton 75 1.5 at 1.5. Can you see a difference? Let me know in the comments. And now I'm going back to the Noctilux, so the order of the photos are going to change a little bit. These are now with the Noctilux at 1.25. And again, these are now with the Voigtlander at 1.5. I'm not sure I can see a huge difference. What I think we need is some slightly more geeky testing. Before we do, I just want to say a huge thanks to my awesome patrons. Patreon is my kind of teach and inspire platform. If you're interested in that kind of thing, I can put some links below. Now, I don't know what device you're viewing this video on, but even if you're on a big screen, I couldn't tell a huge difference. The center sharpness on both lenses wide open seems very similar. The colors are not hugely different, and the contrast is not hugely different. So these photos are now shot wide open at the clock at the end of the station. And again, the sharpness seems pretty similar, wide open in the kind of the central part of the frame. What about at the edge of the frame? At the edge of the frame, again, they're not hugely different. So what is the verdict? I think there's no question that the Leica Noctilux lens can take fantastic pictures, especially portraits as I shoot. But I don't think it's that different to the Voigtlander lens. I think if you did more detailed testing, you'd probably find that the Leica lens is better corrected, say for chromatic aberration or probably less vignetting. But for real world use, I didn't see a huge difference. The advantage of the Voigtlander lens is a third of the weight, it's 14 times cheaper, and it takes pretty similar photos. To put it in perspective, John loves his 75mm Noctilux lens, but after trying my Voigtlander lens yesterday, he's like, I need to get this lens. This lens is just so light and portable, and it's everything you want from an M system, which the Noctilux lens doesn't really give you. I think the Noctilux lens is fantastic at what it does, but I'd say it's too big and too heavy to be used on an M camera. And if you do use an M camera, I'd use it with an EVF and a grip just to try and balance it, because the camera's going to be really front heavy. And ideally shoot it on, say, an SL2, SL2S, SL in my case, and that'll give you a much more balanced setup. The question is, if you already own a 50mm Noctilux, is it worth upgrading to the 75mm Noctilux? Now, I've not shot both lenses side by side, but Thorsten has done a video on the 75 that compares the 75 next to the 50, so I can link that video to watch next.